Hello, everyone. This is your friendly neighborhood EP, Mark Alley here. As we begin the podcast, we learned this morning that Hall of Fame quarterback and beloved Chiefs icon Len Dawson passed away this morning. We expected this due to the news that came out last week about hospice being called in. Our condolences to his family and friends and to all of Chiefs Kingdom. He will certainly be missed. We dedicate this episode to his honor. Let's all pour out a Fresca in honor of Lenny the Cool.
This is the Unprofessional Outsiders, a Kansas City Chiefs podcast by Average Joes for Average Joes, covering the Chiefs, random sports talk, and just about anything else.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Unprofessional Outsiders. This is a Kansas City Chiefs podcast by your favorite Average Joes for all of you Average Joes. My name is Mark Alley. I'm your friendly neighborhood executive producer. I am joined this evening by my two co-hosts and sons, Brandon Wellman and Connor Alley. Connor, say hello.
Hello. Thank you for joining our weekly podcast.
Brandon, how are you doing this evening?
Doing good. Chiefs got a victory this past weekend, so feeling real nice.
Yeah, we're 1-1 in the preseason. Everything looked pretty good, especially with our starters, but more on that later. We're going to move right into it, folks. There's a lot to talk about this evening, and we're going to start in and around Arrowhead Stadium with
Chiefs News.
All right, so coming out of the game, there really wasn't too many injuries. Rashad Fenton did end up getting ruled out halfway through the game with some sort of a hamstring injury. He had been out most of the preseason, offseason with his shoulder and was back in action. Hopefully nothing too severe there. However, we got some interesting news today, Monday, that Carlos Dunlap, who did not play in the preseason game week 2 on Saturday, also didn't practice today, and they're citing some sort of Achilles injury. Now, we don't know if it's soreness, pain. It doesn't seem like it's anything where he's gone and had an Achilles tear or something of that nature, where it's a severe injury, but something definitely to keep in mind on. This is a guy who's getting older. I mean, I think he's a 32 or 33-year-old player now.
Yeah.
With his position as a defensive end, you want to be able to have that burst and that quick first step, and any sort of Achilles injury with that position is going to be limiting, to say the least. So want to keep an eye on him. Hopefully coming up into this last game of the preseason, and we'll talk about that a little bit more here later, but a lot of the starters or significant players should have a pretty significant snap reduction if they play at all. So hopefully he gets kind of a rest week. We were talking about it before the show, and Connor referred to it as veteranitis. Definitely could be a case of that for sure. So keep an eye on it this week and through the next couple of weeks as we get into week 1. That's one of the key offseason pickup for Brett Veach and the Chiefs, and getting Carlos Dunlap to round out the defensive end room. And if we lose him, we're down to Mike Dana, George Karlaftis, and Frank Clark. You're going to have somebody like a Malik Herring, maybe a Joshua Kando step up. I think if he gets hurt, you almost have to start looking at maybe an outside acquisition. And
that's what I was just thinking.
The defensive end room gets scary if you're down to those three and not Carlos Dunlap.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why we signed this guy, to be the rotational player and to have some depth there, and to have him taken away. He's definitely a meat and potatoes type of person that you don't want not in your lineup. Connor, any thoughts on Fenton or Dunlap's injuries?
With Fenton, he did play most of the preseason game this past week against Washington. I think it was a hamstring, like Brandon just said. From what all I've heard, it wasn't a very serious injury scare, so I'm not really worried about that. He was seen like joking and talking with his teammates afterwards, so that makes you feel better hearing that as a fan.
Exactly. Not much more we can say really about the injuries. Every team gets injuries. There are injuries that happen in a game like football, so hopefully these guys will be back up and running by the first couple weeks in September when we really need them. We're going to move on then. We're going to talk about what happened in preseason week 2.
The game that was.
Well, folks, it was great to be in Arrowhead Stadium as the Kansas City Chiefs overcame the Washington Commanders 24-14. Everything looked like it was clicking on all cylinders out there for the first half, especially while most of our starters were out there. Mahomes threw 2 touchdown passes in 2 drives. We did not punt while he was leading the team.
We haven't had the punt with Pat all preseason.
Yeah. So that's awesome. He looked very solid. The offense was really, really something to watch. Defense was looking good too. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to concentrate on the players that we pegged to watch last week on the show. I'm going to ask you to talk about who your player was and what you noticed during Game 2. Connor, we're going to start with you.
So my player to watch was Sky Moore because I have a little man crush on Sky Moore.
I wouldn't say
all out
it's
of
a little
football
man
love.
crush. I would say it's a large man crush, but okay.
It's all about football though. It's all about business. So anyway, moving on. Sky Moore is not really involved in the offense this past week against the not really vaunted defense of the Commanders. 0 catches and just 1 target. Should have been a catch for a touchdown, but I believe there was pass interference on him. Would have been a sure touchdown, but he played with the starters, and that was about it, and they took him out, which, I mean, yes, I would have liked to see a highlight play, but that's all right because he's a starter, and we don't really need him to be proving himself preseason.
You know, we don't expect the rookie to come in and be super productive in every game, and it looks like he probably didn't get very much playing time because he's did so well and has done so well in camp that he's considered more one of the starting players, and they want to get a look at some of their reserve players and see what they had with those guys. Brandon, you had who, and tell us what you learned this week.
Yeah, so I talked about Trick McDuffie last week. Kind of picked him out, and the reason I did that is his name wasn't brought up a lot last week. He actually had no passes go his way, so he didn't really have any stats. If we go over to the old box score, according to ESPN, he still had barely any stats. He had 1 solo tackle. He actually made a great play on a pass into the flat. It was actually a check down, but made a great sure tackle, came in from about 10 yards away and made a great tackle. But so no pass defense. He was involved in a pass defense in that there was a ball thrown to a defender that he was defending. However, the ball sailed way away, and he doesn't get the count on that in that category. So really, Trent McDuffie through 2 preseason games now, and again, we're going with that caveat of preseason games, but through 2 preseason games, playing largely with the ones on defense. I don't want to hype the train up too much, but he's been shut down.
Right.
Quarterbacks aren't looking his way. Wide receivers aren't making plays. It's really impressive. And, you know, we talked about the Rashad Fenton injury, but I'm really excited for our cornerback core this year. We are younger across the board. Rashad Fenton and L'Jarius Sneed are going to be our oldest cornerbacks in that room, and they've only been in the league for about 3 or 4 seasons.
Yeah, that's really crazy to think of, right?
You're talking about guys in their mid-20s being the elder statesmen in that room, and it's interesting because that's a trend you see throughout different areas of the defense. You see it in the linebacking core. You see it also in the safety core. To me, I think it's exciting that we're getting this complete overhaul, if you will, of our defense, minus some consistency along the defensive line. But you're getting this overhaul of starters. If everything goes well, even if this defense now maybe doesn't perform top 5 or 10 in the league, if they can perform to get around the 15, 16 rank in their first year together, they're young enough. This team could become known for its defense on top of already having the best quarterback and offense in the league.
I would take that any day.
He's going to be one of the best corners in the game. He's got the potential. He's got the technique. I'm really excited to see him go against some of the best wide receivers in the NFL and show how good he is.
Well, we'll get a chance in week 1 when we travel to Arizona, because they got some speedsters and they got some veterans down there.
Well, speaking of this young defense I was just mentioning, you kind of talked about a player last week, Mr.
I did.
Mr. Executive Producer. Who did you discuss? How did you think he performed this week?
So I picked George Karlaftis to be the guy that I was going to keep an eye on. And folks, this may be the Unprofessional Outsiders podcast, but I actually, every time that he was on the field, I watched him the entire time. Okay? And I took notes.
Did a little bit of actual video scouting. Wow.
I did like a professional would do. I took notes.
Are we going to have to get an NFL Plus subscription for you so that way you can get the All-22 film and you can see?
I may have to. They'll have to do like in a hockey game. They used to do the thing where they made the puck like neon or whatever. Whoa. And it'll just be like, oh, pick your player that you want to track. And I tap on Karlaftis and then boop, 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 boop. Anyway. Okay, so here's the notes that I took. You ready for this?
Ready.
Karlaftis beats 2 for a sack. That's my notes. It was a pretty impressive play. He was getting double teamed. The coverage was good.
and he just basically manhandled him and flipped over. What do you call that move where they kind of spin? It's a spin move. It's a spin move. Yeah, it's a spin move, like a Power Ranger. The Power Ranger spin move, and got in there and sacked the quarterback, and it was awesome. And he actually this week had a sack celebration, put his hands up, and basically pumped the crowd up. That was it. I don't know if that's what he's going to go for.
I wouldn't call that a celebration, to be honest.
It works for me, though. I think it's more of a modesty thing, and he seems like the kind of guy who's not going to be super flashy with that end of things, but very impressive. We like Karlaftis. I'm looking at his stats here. He had 2 tackles. One of them was solo with the sack, a tackle for loss, and a quarterback hit. So there you go. Great stuff from our rookie.
So here's my question. With where we are with our first-round rookies, and I really think our entire draft class is strong, but I think we really have, unlike what we've had before, especially them being defensive players, we have 2 standout rookies, I think, that come from that first round, and McDuffie and Karlaftis.
Yep, you're right.
I think these are both guys that, especially when you look across the league at the guys that were taken in the first round, I think both of these guys, especially with the roles they're going to be playing, have potential to be in the Defensive Rookie of the Year conversation. It's already being talked about. Now, who knows? We could get through the season and, injuries, inconsistency, whatever. But both of these guys are being talked about that way. Mm-hmm. So tell me this. If you were going to pick one of these guys between McDuffie and Karlaftis to be a Defensive Rookie of the Year, who do you realistically think it would be?
I think realistically it's going to be McDuffie because he's going to be getting all the playing time.
Really? See, I actually think that Karlaftis has a better chance.
Really?
I think he stands out more being a defensive end. I think he has a better opportunity.
I think it's easier for a defensive end to be.
Kind of like when we talk about the MVP conversation or even
always being a
player of the year.
Right.
It's easier to do that than it is if you're a wide receiver or a running back or tight end. Not that it can't be done. It's just easier that way.
Also, I would want to add, I would feel if you're voting for a Defensive Rookie of the Year, unless McDuffie he leads the league in interceptions or something that.
Yeah, that's a great call.
That's what you have to do as a corner to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, and he's just not that kind of cornerback. There's nothing wrong with that. He's more of like a lockdown, not allow any passes at all cornerback. But Karlaftis, he's actually going to get sacks, and sacks are sexy, basically.
Okay, defensive backs, not just rookies, defensive backs in general, corner safeties, whatever, can have a good game without stuffing the stat sheet.
Yeah, that's true.
For defensive linemen, you're going to look for them.
It's going to show up in the box score, right?
Exactly. If Karlaftis has Gary Johnson, I think set the rookie sack record for the Chiefs at 10. If Karlaftis comes in and ties that or breaks it,
that'd be great.
Ridiculous.
We're more than happy with the 10 sacks.
Guys, I'm going to call an audible. Can I talk a beef of the week real quickly here? I'm looking through this receiving stat line, and we talked about some players that didn't perform up to their potential. And we've got one of our young guys who everybody loves. He had 4 receptions in the game, but for only 19 yards. What was up with Jody Fortson?
You mean those red zone targets? Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, wait a minute. That's right. I didn't read the rest of the box score. He had 2 touchdowns also.
Let me ask you guys a question. We're in August right now. We're getting ready to roll into September. A lot of people think fall, football. Is that your favorite season? Is fall your favorite season?
I would argue that winter is actually, but I'm crazy like that. Fall is good. Fall's a good season, yes.
It doesn't matter because the best season is Fort season. Jody Fortson is back. Ladies and gentlemen, Jody Fortson, he's not the tight end 2 that we deserve, but he's the tight end 2 that we need.
He looked very, very good on that toe-tapping corner of the end zone catch.
Him and Pat have some real chemistry.
They sure
do. We saw that up into and through the injury last year against, coincidentally, the Washington football team at the time. Last year was his first year to make the 53-man squad, and he was active and really starting again to kind of blossom into that middle point of the season. Yeah. Unfortunately, that injury kind of derailed him. I was a little concerned with how he would look coming back. But, I mean, the guy doesn't look like he's missed a step at all. He had a little bit of an injury, there at the end of training camp that held him out, but he's making all the catches. He's using his body. 4 receptions for 19 yards, average of 4.8 yards a reception. Okay, if he is getting 3 and 4 receptions a game and getting a touchdown every time, or at least good for a touchdown every 2 games even, it would not be surprising to see Jody Fortson go off for 400 or 500 yards and 7 or 8 touchdowns.
If anything would happen to Kelsey, knock on wood, Fortson is going to be getting more snaps, and I think he's not that much of a drop-off as far as the rapport with Pat. It feels like. I know that seems like heresy to say that, but I just feel like he's going to step right up in there and perform well.
He has been a shadow of Travis Kelce the last couple of years. Travis has had great things to say about him, but overall, that tight end room is going to be an area of strength. We've had the unfortunate injury with Blake Bell. We don't know exactly what's going to happen there. But Noah Gray, 5th-round draft pick from last year, he only had 1 reception, but he had a big one. It was 30 yards, and it was on a breakdown where he found basically a weak area in the secondary and was able to sit in it for Pat to kind of have as a safety valve. And the safety valve of 30 yards. If Noah Gray, your 5th-round pick from last year, is coming up, Fortson is coming back from his injury and being everything and more that we have clamored for him to be the last few years. Yep. And then you got Travis Kelce, the best tight end, I'm going to say it, to ever do it. This tight end room, I mean, we're going to be rolling with, what was that package? It was the T-Rex package they talked about for the injuries last year. We're going to be rolling with like 3 tight ends, a wide receiver, and one of our running backs, and we're just going to go nuts this year. And I'm going to love every second of it.
Same. Well, listen, anything else to add, Connor, about game 2 before we move on to the future?
Shout out to Justin Watson.
Oh,
definitely a lock. He will not be playing preseason
100%.
game 3.
Yeah, he's wide receiver 5, right?
I think that's a good transition point, Connor, into this game next week.
The game to come.
Week 3 of the preseason, we're going to be playing the Packers. And when I say we're playing, I mean, at the most, some of the second stringers are playing. I don't think we expect any of the first stringers to play. Pat's not going to be out there. Travis is not going to be out there. I think, to Connor's point, receivers 1 through 5 are not going to be out there. In this 3rd preseason game, we're going to be looking at a couple of key areas that are going to be finalizing the bottom part of that roster. I think you're going to be looking at that wide receiver 6 position. You're also potentially looking at cornerbacks 5 and maybe 6. Do you guys think any differently than that, or do you guys have other positions you think that are a high battle right now?
I got one. Defensive tackle depth. You could look at Taylor Stallworth and Danny Shelton?
Yeah. Is it between those 2 and Saunders for that last tackle spot potentially?
I really think it is. And they're all really talented guys. Stallworth's had a really good camp. Shelton's kind of at a big disadvantage because he got added so late in the off season, but they're all really talented. Saunders has got a chip on his shoulder, it looks like, in all the preseason games. I think he's had 2 sacks in 2 preseason games. Is that right?
Something like that. Yeah.
That's something I'm looking at.
I saw a 53-man projection, and looking at the defensive tackle spots, since you brought it up, Chris Jones, Derek Nottie, and Tershawn Wharton are probably our locks at that position. Yeah. So to your point, I think those 3 guys, Shelton, Stallworth, and Saunders, I think they're in a battle for that 4th DT spot. And I don't think you see more than 2 out of those 3 making it. And that's that. And if you do that, you have to keep 5 defensive tackles. So what I saw was actually that you trade Stallworth, and then you end up you do have 5 defensive tackles, and you keep both Shelton and Nottie, because Stallworth potentially has the most trade value in getting maybe a day 3 pick back at this point in the preseason. I think another battle is our offensive line. I think you're looking at that first string is pretty locked in at this point. The right tackle battle was not even really a battle at all. But that second string offensive line, I talked about it a little bit last week, because it's kind of the struggles there. And honestly, even the first string, I think, is having a little bit of a chemistry issue in terms of the run game. But that second off-string offensive line, I think, really has a pretty big – it falls off a cliff pretty drastically after that first string. So it's interesting to see how those guys play in the game this week. Mr. EP, what are your thoughts? Any areas you want to look at?
Really, the only thing I keep my eye on at that level would be the running backs. And it's again, I'm going back to my beef of the weaker from last week. Is Derek Gore going to make this team? He had 5 carries for 11 yards, a scintillating 2.2 yard per carry average. I think you're going to have to do better than that. But McKinnon's a lock, right? Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a lock, right? Who passed that? Pacheco? He's probably the third
Pacheco's
one.
on the roster.
Yeah. I think
so
you got those three.
Do we keep 4? I don't think we do.
But we typically do. But here's the. I think you have those 3. I think you have Burton. And then I think
of course it's Burton.
I think you've got 1 game left for Gore and Jones to make this roster. I think Fleet Davis is probably going to the practice squad.
Apparently
I think
Jones didn't even get a carry.
Yeah, I think Gore could potentially go to the practice squad. I was really hoping after last week that Jones would have a good outing this week and we could maybe trade him and get something for him.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to. I'm really interested to see because I think that Jones and Gore are going to be very much highlighted in this game.
Probably.
And if they can show out, I think
I
either
just
one
feel
of them
like
can still make a
Rojo's
case.
cut. I don't see Rojo having any value whatsoever to the Chiefs at this point.
I'm still holding out. I'm still holding out a little bit of hope, even beyond just the trade potential. We've seen over the last couple of years that he has skills as a runner.
Yeah.
He may actually be, based on the previous tape, he may be the most skilled runner in that room. For whatever reason, he's not being able to show it. Now, like I said earlier, I think there have been some chemistry issues with the line and the running backs, where the running backs maybe aren't hitting the right holes. We saw that in the game this week where Pacheco had a carry in the red zone, right? Not on the goal line, but about the 5 or 7 yard line. And he just took the wrong hole. And Pat afterwards was kind of indicating, hey, why didn't you go that way? And it even came up in the press conferences after the game and today after practice. But I don't know if that's a cause or what, but there's still something there. And I just hate to cut him even without trading him. I think he's still got something to add to this team, but it's possible we only keep 3 running backs this year.
All right, more thoughts about week 3, guys, before we're ready to move on to our next segment?
I think it's time to sound the alarm. We haven't done it in a while.
Yeah, we haven't done this in a while. You were talking about Mr. Patrick LaVon Mahomes, and so we're going to move on to...
It's time for Patrick Watch.
Well, besides getting into the Texas Tech Hall of Fame and Ring of Honor, shout out to Texas Tech for finally inducting their greatest player of all time and the NFL GOAT into their Ring of Honor.
Well said.
But no, something even bigger than that. Patrick Mahomes is now a playable character in the worldwide phenomenon known as Fortnite.
Yeah,
and have you seen his character? It's incredible. The design is amazing.
Tell me a little bit about this, Connor. How did this? I have played Fortnite like 3 times with my nephew, your cousin, I guess, Ben. Do you play as these characters and have special abilities, or is it just a cosmetic deal?
Well, I won't lie. I'm probably the one person in my age group who is not big on Fortnite. Just never have.
Yeah, you're more of a what's the other one you play?
Apex.
You're an Apex guy. Yeah, that's right.
I believe if you like unlock, I think you would have to buy Mahomes or something, because I'm pretty sure you had to buy like Goku and LeBron and Darth Vader and all that.
Yeah.
But like if you buy them or if you beat them in the game, you like unlock their abilities. Like if you kill Darth Vader, you can pick up his lightsaber.
It's so weird. I saw a screenshot that had Indiana Jones launching a rocket launcher at somebody. And winning the match. I was like, what am I looking at here, you know? But anyway, so it's a cultural sensation, absolutely. It's raking in tons of money, basically revolutionized the battle royale genre of video games. And now Patrick is his own character
with his
Fortnite.
gladiator looking helmet and brand logo all over.
He's got like a cool axe and like a half body armor thing. He looks like a Roman gladiator combined with a football player, which actually kind of makes sense, right? Pretty awesome. We love Patrick and dip our ketchup in his honor every time. So let's move on then to news from other teams in the National Football League.
Around the NFL.
Well, folks, the quarterback controversy in Carolina is apparently over. 2 games into the preseason, Baker Mayfield has got his stamp of approval to be the starter for the Carolina Panthers, suppressing Sam Darnold. On a scale of 1 to 10, gentlemen, how surprised are you that this is the case? Brandon?
1.
Connor?
0. Not surprised at all.
I would have said like a 3. I thought they would have maybe like waited until closer to the start of the season.
The week 1 game is against the Browns. The NFL.
Well, yeah.
All right, listen, we're going to go ahead and approve this deal, and you're going to make Baker the starter. Like, I don't care how you make it look, but he's going to be the starter week 1. After that, you can do whatever you want.
Right. That's probable. That's probable. I mean, all the eyes will be on Carolina. I mean, I know I'm wanting to watch that game to see how that all's going to go. I mean, the Browns being such a toilet bowl of a team right now anyway. So, yeah, congrats to Baker, and we can't wait to start watching more of your commercials in between drives this year.
I hope there's a commercial about him moving.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That would be actually very cool. All right, so I hope
Christian McCaffrey is like his neighbor, and he like just moves to Carolina. CMC's his new neighbor.
That would be awesome. I'm pumped about it. I'm pumped about it as a CMC fantasy keeper owner. Hey, boys, you have any tinfoil in your general vicinity? Because it's time to put on the tinfoil hats. We got a conspiracy theory to talk about here. Brandon, you want to run this one down? Tom Brady has been missing for the past few days. Go ahead and tell us about that.
So they've explained it as just some sort of family deal, whatever. I have a theory about this. I heard about this and I did some research, and it matches up. All right.
Okay.
Are you guys familiar with the show The Masked Singer?
Barely. I see annoying ads for it all the time.
Okay. So if I'm not mistaken, I believe Rob Gronkowski was actually on The Masked Singer in a previous season.
Mm-hmm.
So that show is on Fox. If you recall, Tom Brady this offseason, when he was retiring, when we thought he was retiring, signed a massive 10-year, almost $400 million deal with Fox. The theory I heard that I ran down and did some more research on, it would make a lot of sense if Tom Brady stepped away, because at the exact same time that he stepped away, The Masked Singer was also on schedule to be doing some filming. I think that Tom Brady stepped away to do some contestant, be a guest, whatever, on The Masked Singer.
Let's just think, which is cooler, being a Fortnite skin or being on The Masked Singer?
We know the answer to that.
Oh, it's obviously being a Fortnite skin.
Well, hold on. Here's the thing we really need to talk about. Speaking of Tom Brady, did we hear what came out of Dana White's mouth?
That he was going to be an Oakland Raider?
Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski were going to the Oakland Raiders, and Gruden threw the whole thing out of whack.
Thank you, John Gruden.
There's an interview that Tom Brady did after he joined the Bucs, and it was something to the effect, they were asking him about free agency and everything. He said, well, yeah, there's, kind of came down to it, and then at the end, some team pulled out, and Tom Brady goes, and this is I am paraphrasing from the interview. Tom Brady goes, what? You wanted to go with that? Beep, beep.
And
the beep, beep was Derek Carr.
It was Derek Carr. See, everybody thought it was Jimmy G, right? I thought he was going to be going.
I heard it was Derek Carr. That's what I heard back then.
Tua was really? An option.
Tua, yeah.
Apparently, it was Derek Carr, and it makes me so happy.
That is amazing. So we see the Raiders getting disrespected in this way. I love it so much. I'll be honest with you. I would have loved it if Brady and Gronk came to be Raiders.
I would not.
I think that would have been so epic. Just to have Brady in the division with Pat for even a year or two. Man, the stuff of legend. I love it. I love it.
Would have been nuts.
Hey, you know what? We got to move on. That's enough football talk for this evening. We're going to move on to other methods of entertainment.
This Week in Sports.
In MLB news, the New York Yankees are terrible, which is very funny because they're the Yankees. But even better, the St. Louis Cardinals, the best baseball team in the greater state of Missouri. Some will say, most will say, actually.
Yeah.
As a Royals fan, it's fair.
Yeah. But anyway, Albert Pujols, one of arguably the greatest baseball players ever. I think even Royals fans could agree with that.
He's nodding his head. He won't.
I'm contemplating. I'm contemplating. I mean, there's a lot of great baseball players.
There is.
He's a great one. Do I think he's one of the best of all time? I'm not sure if I'm there. I think he's really good, though. I think he's really, really good.
I will say,
come on. You don't think he's going to be in the Hall of Fame?
You got to look at
being in the Hall of Fame does not mean he's the best of all time.
Fair enough.
Think about the NFL Hall of Fame. There are people in the NFL Hall of Fame that are not the best of all time.
Well, obviously, there's only one best of all time.
I still think there's a volume problem, and I think actually we're going down a whole path with this right now.
Let's not.
But Deion Sanders actually said it. They're basically letting anybody into the Hall now, and so when you're doing that, it actually it decreases the value of it. It's kind of like from The Incredibles, if you recall, the bad guy syndrome. The line goes, I'm going to make everyone super, and when everyone's super, no one will be.
No one is super.
Yeah.
Great quote. Great.
It is a great quote. Shout out to The Incredibles. We love it.
Albert Pujols, he is on the hunt for 700 home runs. Not many players have ever been able to do that. To be honest, it wasn't looking very good. It was looking like he was maybe going to get maybe 685. That was people being optimistic. Currently, as of tonight, he is at 693. He has had now, I think, 8 or 10 home runs since August 10th, which is the most by any MLB player right now. This is apparently the best 10-game stretch of his career.
Wow. Okay, tell me this, Connor.
All right.
Is this one of those situations where it's like Brett Favre running right into Michael Strahan so he would get the sack record? Are these pitchers lobbing him balls that are easier to hit just so old man Pujols?
Matters. I don't think it matters because even like if you watch the home run derby and they're slow pitching to him, not every single one is there. You still got to make the right contact, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And just to add to what Connor is saying, let me run down for you the list of the 700 home run club.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Right.
Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, Barry Bonds. That's
asterisk. Put an asterisk on.
No, it doesn't matter. He still did it. 3 names. 3 names. So if Pujols says he's at 693 as of this evening, if he hits 7 more home runs, he will join those 3 as the only players to ever do it. And going back, Connor, to your point, if he does that, then I think there's a more conversation around him being one of the greatest to ever do it. Absolutely.
Well, they call him the machine for a reason.
Yeah,
he's gonna get. He has plenty of time.
Paul, who is a Hank Aaron fan, but we'd love to see a Missouri team boy like Albert Pujols get on the 700 club. That'd be awesome.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're still listening after this long, we're sorry. We're very sorry. But
nice. We didn't even plan that.
We lobbed it up to each other. It was like the double lob. It was a double lob. It was beautiful.
I was just gonna say that. Get out of my head. You're not even paying rent.
All right, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Pop Culture Minute. Take it away,
Mr.
I
kiss you open mouth right now.
Whoa.
It's time for the Pop Culture Minute.
All right, folks, it's time for the Pop Culture Minute. I am not setting my timer. Tonight we are going to be talking...
No, hold on. How's that fair?
What?
You don't set your timer in weeks.
Yeah, I'm
months.
not.
I don't know. I've been gone for that. Well,
that's the gag. I'm not setting it anymore. It's the Pop Culture Minute. I'm not setting it.
When you said it.
Well, I'm not setting it. So we're going to be talking about a recent movie, the movie being Prey, 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 not the type of pray you would do in church. I'm going to avoid spoilers because Brandon did not do his homework and watch this like he was supposed to. Connor did, so he and I are going to be talking about it a little bit.
Sorry, some of us don't stay home and paint miniatures all day.
Hey, you know what? I have reached a point in my life where that is something that I can do and set apart time for. So one of these days, my son, you will get to this point and you will enjoy it. But anyway, I digress. Prey is a Predator movie. Now, the boys and I are big fans of Predator, the original. It is one of the greatest movies of all time. I put it easily in my top probably 15 movies, I would guess. Arnold, Jesse Ventura. You got so much testosterone. It's just like the key 80s action film is Predator. The design of the Predator is awesome. That movie was small budget and it hit way out of its budget. It just was better than it should have been. We have Predator 2 with Danny Glover, which I just recently rewatched. It's not nearly as good as Predator 1, but still fairly entertaining. Past that, you've got a couple Aliens versus Predators movies that are very skippable. A Predators, plural Predators, movie that was okay back in the early 2010s. And then a movie called The Predator that was so poorly reviewed, I haven't even watched it. But we come upon this movie, Prey. Prey was actually not even debuted in theaters. It was on a Hulu exclusive. Basically, the premise is Predator meets Native Americans. All right, so we go back about 500 years. We follow a tribe of Native Americans. I think they're Comanches. Is that right, Connor?
Yes.
Okay. We follow a tribe of Comanches who are in the vicinity while a predator comes along and starts, doing its open season type of things. The main character is a woman, and she is trying to kind of carve out her place in their society instead of being just a gatherer, one to stay home and do that kind of thing. She wants to be out hunting because she's so good at it. Stunning action sequences, very well shot, wonderful dialogue. There's so many interesting situations that come up with this. The final fight scene is just ridiculous and off the hook. I loved the nods to previous movies that we found. I really just can't talk enough about how good it was. Spoilers here, Brandon.
I'm putting my microphone off. I'm putting my headphones off. Just wave at me when
this
you're
isn't
ready.
going to be much of a spoiler, but the good girl wins. And when she comes back holding the head of the predator with her face painted in the war paint using the glowing predator blood, that right there is enough to sell me on a movie. Fantastic film. If you are at all a fan of the Predator movies, you need to watch this one. It will erase the bad taste of the previous films out of your mouth entirely. Prey on Hulu. Watch it. I'll be buying this one when it comes out on disc. Connor, what were your thoughts on Prey?
I thought it was really good. Definitely my favorite Predator movie behind the OG, probably.
Yeah.
Action scenes were great. The effects looked great. It was just really interesting story and concept. You were drawn in the whole time. Very, very solid film. Very solid film.
Yeah, it really was. I saw something online. Someone said we need to have a Predator goes to like Samurai Japan. And I'm all over that too. That's what we need to do. We've already had Predator in America. We've had Predator in the jungle against American soldiers. Now we just need to do like genre films with a Predator in it, okay? I want Billy the Kid versus the Predator. That should be something that we have, right? Or Predators in the deep future. Jason versus No, we don't want that. No one wants that, but
Definitely.
All right. Okay, folks, so that's what we've got this week. We've talked a long time. I'm probably going to have to edit out about 17 to 18 minutes of this. That shouldn't be any issue for an accomplished editor such as myself. We want to give you a little bit of a sneak peek of the next couple shows. Next week, we're going to talk about the Week 3 reactions and also our reactions to the NFL Top 100 list. That was one of our popular segments from last summer. Popular among who? Popular among us, because it's fun for us to talk about. So we're going to be having our discussion of who shouldn't be higher, who should be lower from the NFL Top 100 when it releases this Sunday. The week after that, in anticipation of the regular season, we're going to have a little bit of a sneak preview of our Week 1 game against the Cardinals. And also we're going to have our annual and only fantasy football episode where we'll have some fantasy chat in there. That's not going to be a weekly thing that we do anymore. Just ended up being too much to manage and probably not the greatest content. But we figure one episode, having a little bit in there right before the season starts is going to be helpful. Anything to add, gentlemen? Anything we've left out? Any aliens that you need to hunt down and destroy?
Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing.
Absolutely. All right. Well, folks, I guess that's it then. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Unprofessional Outsiders. They don't know what they were doing, but they had fun doing it.
Shadows of a glorious past. Whispers of a storied legacy. Yet the memories of that age still live. At the start of the season, we buried ourselves. But we clawed our way out of the darkness with the will to survive. Now, the spirits of great chiefs past and present are in the air tonight. All Hallows Eve. Kansas City will rise again on Monday Night Football.